and stuff were fine because I've had Graves' disease in the past, but I've been in remission for about 7 years. I was being monitored by an endocrinologist as well, and my thyroid actually stopped working, so I had to go on thyroxine. And to the day that I started thyroxine, not that it was anything to do with it, I started to get heart palpitations. And my heart rate started to go up, so it would go up pretty high for no reason. There was one time that my heart rate would go 80 to 150 towards the end before I went into prem labour. Sam and I were at a movie and it wasn't a scary movie, and my heart rate went up to 170. So yeah, it just felt like really off, really washed out from that, but still continued to work. I was being monitored in the hospital at my appointments, feeling really, really tired, but then having difficulty walking, where I was having really bad pains and stuff, and went to my midwife appointment and reported it, and was kind of disregarded, I think, because it was sort of common symptoms maybe. Then I went to my GP later that day and also reported it, and she also disregarded it. So I kind of just thought something's not right. I cried to my mum. I just wanted everything to be okay. I was struggling with being pregnant, especially because I just thought, like, I'd just gone into my 3rd trimester. At this stage I was only 28 weeks. So I can't do this forever. Like, I'm really suffering. It's getting me down. And then I just sort of thought, well, it is what it is. I've got to take a teaspoon of cement and harden up. Went home and when I'd got home from my appointment, I actually came home to find that one of my dogs had injured himself. So he had hurt his back, and so I was up all night with him, and he's trying to help him because he'd done his spine again. It was the 2nd time he'd done it. He'd already had surgery. So I was up looking after him, and Sam had a really big day the next day with work. He owns his own business. So I said, go in the other room, go and have a sleep. I'll look after Gaz, and I'll be okay. I'm just letting you know that I'm having a little bit of spotting, but it's okay. I've had it before, because 2 weeks earlier, spotting when I was at work, and being a nurse, I just called the hospital maternity ward, because I worked at the same hospital I was going to give birth at, and they did some tests and had a look and did some monitoring and said that I had a cervical encroachment, and that we just continue to monitor it, but I might find that I have some very light spotting reported if it gets worse. So then I said to Sam, yep, just very light spotting, the same as before. If it gets any worse, I'll let you know. You go and have a sleep. And he was like, yeah, you sure? I said, yep, you got a big day tomorrow, I'll deal. So went to sleep and woke up at 4 a.m. with this sudden urge to poo. And I was really bad pains. Went to the toilet, and when I went to the toilet, my waters broke in the bowl. I was just mortified. I was having pain. I had no idea what was going on. I actually thought I was having a miscarriage. So woke Sam up, and we went to I called the hospital, and they were like, oh, come on down, we'll be there waiting for you. So we went to the hospital, and my dad came and met us there, and my mum looked after my dog. So it was my dad and Sam and I in the hospital. When we had got there, they were fantastic. There was a midwife, the nurse in charge, and a doctor waiting for me. Straight away, they had a room for me. I went straight in, and they ran some tests. You're in active labour, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. We were just in shock. I felt sick. I wasn't ready to be a mum. I thought I was having a miscarriage. Now I'm being told I'm in labour. I was so my dad's face, like, he was mortified. Like, he looked like I was dying. Like, he was so shocked. He's not good with these sort of things, and he was freaking out. So then they said, given your gestation, you're too early to have a baby here, so we're going to transfer you to another hospital. They gave me some steroids and labour and transferred me to the Mercy in Heidelberg, and I went in ambulance. Sam went behind me in the car. He was so worried. There they put me through ED and transferred me up to the ward, and then they said, this is where you'll be until you have your baby. We're going to try and keep your baby in till you're 36 weeks. And gosh, it was so scary. So I just realised my snaps weren't out of order, but it was just saying that they were, saying that they weren't uploading and stuff. So sorry about that. So yeah, they told me that I was going to have some good quality time in hospital till I was 36 weeks, if possible. They continued to try and stop my labour, so I had to get comfortable with the idea of being stuck there, but it was just a roller coaster. So I managed to keep Ollie in for a week, but in that week, every day something would go wrong at night. So I had no sleep every day. I'd probably have 3 hours, 4 hours max, and it was not rested sleep because I was running on adrenaline and so concerned. I was having multiple blood tests. I was having constant monitoring. My inflammatory markers were up, which was indicating that I had some sort of brewing. So they put me down to having chorioamnionitis, which is something that is like an infection in the placenta. So I either had some sort of virus or infection that caused my waters to break, or my waters broke and I caught something. So either way, they just continued to monitor me and Bubs, and so long as we were okay, loaded me with antis and stay in hospital as an inpatient till it was safe to deliver. And if not, then I'd have to give birth. So every day and every night, they were 3 times a day, they'd change their mind. I'd go down to the birthing suite. It was all over the shop. It was really hard, draining emotionally and stuff. I had a fabulous doctor that was on night duty. Every night when something went into a bit of labour, or Bubs was becoming distressed, or I was off or something, she'd be there. She was amazing. Her name was Sue. So I've just moved outside because I was out here running amok just to keep an eye on him. It's getting hot. Yeah, so then they finally made the call of my baby, because they were loading me with antis and stuff, and my inflammatory markers were coming down. But then they started to go up again, and my heart rate actually started. And they just decided, it's safer to just give birth. I'd already had my 2 doses of steroids. I'd been in hospital for a week. So they just decided to do it. We went down to the birthing suite again. And I'd already met a couple of the nurses that I, like from me going down to birthing a couple of times with my false alarms. So they were really nice. A beautiful midwife again that I got really close, felt really comfortable with. Her name was Barbara. And then there, they induced me. This young doctor came in who was younger than me, came and broke my waters in front of Sam, and Sam was like, weird. They started the oxytocin. I had my parents in the other room, and my my in-laws there, and my best friend had flown down from Perth to help out with the fact that we had an injured dog at home, everything that was going on. And I was really glad that I had Jacinta happen to be there. I'd originally thought that when we were going to give birth, that I would have Sam and his mum there as help for him. She's also a nurse, and we're pretty close. And having that support for him, because he's really anti-hospitals, hates medical stuff, like just a bit nervous, given it's our first child and stuff. Yeah, so then when I went into labour, this time when I was induced, Jack happened to be there, and she was fabulous. She was really good support for Sam. She sort of knew what to do, and it just sort of all happened so fast. I laboured ridiculously fast, but in saying that, I gave birth to a peanut. He was so tiny. So I gave birth at 8 centimetres because he was so little. So 45 minutes of contractions and then 45 minutes of pushing, and he was out. I had been, like, they took me down to birthing at like 2 p.m. and I didn't give birth till like 5 to 12 that night, but by the time I had antes, a few doses of those, they broke my waters, they started the drip of the oxytocin, and they had to give me a thing called a magnesium, so first they give you like a pretty big dose of magnesium. They have to have 2 nurses there, so that took some time to try and get nurses free because they're so busy. Like my hat goes off to the midwives. They're all running around like hooks. It's so crazy all the time. So then they started that, and when it goes in, like, you have this feeling of impending doom. Your heart rate, everything, like, it feels yucky. It really stings. So I had that, and then you have to have it at a slow rate throughout the whole time of your labour, and it's just to reduce the risks of cerebral palsy. Oh, really?
Bike.
Yeah, that is your bike. And that's really hard to have throughout it. Like, pregnancy is not glamorous. No birth plan. I'd never been to any birthing classes. It was far too soon. Had no idea. We'd actually got down to the birthing suite, and Sam and I said to Barb, so what do we do? We have no idea. I had not researched anything. I was in massive denial in the beginning because I wasn't preparing to have a baby initially, and then didn't prepare to have a prem baby. So yeah, just had no idea. But they were really good and really supportive. What are you doing?
Inside.
What are you doing, Ol?
Inside.
What are you doing?
Inside.
Are you doing poo-poos? Why do they always pull these weird faces? They either... Oh, bye. They either go and... Bye. They go in the room. Ollie likes to hide in Sam's cupboard and do a poo, or they pull these weird faces in front of you or look you right in the eye while they do it and creep you out. Probably one of the things you shouldn't say during labour is you think you're dying. But I actually felt like I was dying. I had a contraction at the same time Ollie moved, and I had like another gush of like my waters coming out at the same time that I'd had. So then I could feel like a popping sensation, that he'd moved positions and there was like a release of fluid, and a bit of magnesium go through my system, and it dropped my heart rate, and I just felt effed. It was really bad, and Sam just freaked out, and they freaked out. They're like, what do you mean you're dying? Open my eyes. They were like, open your eyes. And I was just too scared. I was too overwhelmed. And it's like I was exhausted and trying to like participate, and so in like overwhelmed by the fact that I had 15 people in the room, like all of the special care NICU doctors and team ready, and the other doctors. I had one medical student looking straight down the barrel of me having my legs open, which was incredibly awkward, but thank God he was there, because he was the only one that paid attention to the time that I gave birth. So he ended up coming out, and they, skin to skin, was literally pulled him out, popped him down on me for like not even like they didn't silly, just touched me with his hands, and then they took him away and checked on him, worked on him, well, not worked on him, he was stable, he came out alive and everything, but they just had to start running tests and get him off to NICU. So they whisked him away. Sam went with Ollie. So then he was gone, and everyone was beautiful and sorted me out. I was uncontrollably shaking from adrenaline. Jacinta showered me and helped me with that and settled, and then they popped me in a wheelchair and they wheeled me to NICU, where I got to meet Ollie, and I'll be completely honest, I felt nothing. It felt so surreal. I was so exhausted. I had just been through so much. Couldn't believe like what had happened, and I just looked at this tiny innocent little thing in this glass container, and I just thought, that's my baby, we've been through this is intense. I went back to my ward. Sam had to go home. I was in a shared room and had to start expressing, like, I don't know, maybe I was really dumb and oblivious, but I kind of thought, like, you give birth and then you've got like a couple of days and then you start breastfeeding. Like, you're literally out it. Oh, you would all know it. You've all been mums yourselves and gone through it. But yeah, like, someone comes at you and shows you how to do it and starts squeezing your boob and coming at you with a syringe. It's really intense. And then I just have to stop my dog from digging a hole, bear with me. So then I didn't get to hold Ollie for like 24 hours or something. I went down to special care, like to the NICU, in the middle of the night. I stayed in hospital for 3 more days after giving birth, just to have more antes, and which was good, because then I could express my milk and keep running it down and spend some time down there. And yeah, I went down in the middle of the night about 5 in the morning, and one of the nurses that was looking after Ollie said that he was stable enough to let me hold him. And so I sat on the chair. I was so nervous. I had no idea what to do, and they popped him on took him out of his isolate, popped him on my chest, and we had kangaroo care. And that's when it actually hit me that I'm my baby, and felt that instant feeling of connection and love, and like, wow, this is happening. Because I think before I know, it was like I was in a twilight zone. Everything was just, yeah, really crazy. Like a million thoughts are going through your head, and you're sleep deprived, and yeah, it was really weird. And that was really nice. So then our journey started as a new family, with a bub in special care. So I will touch with all of that, and my breastfeeding and expressing and all that shortly. I'm just going to clean up Ollie's code brown and sort out my bubs and spend a bit of time with them, and then put them down to sleep. They sleep at the same time, and then I can talk a bit more about what I do in my day and touch base on all the other things I'm going to discuss. So if you have any questions about anything so far or anything else that you want to know about us, I'll just leave the little question box down here and you can fire away and I'll answer them as I can. So I'm still wrestling him to try and change his nappy. His pooey nappy. I've tried in his room. Now I'm trying here in the living room. But he won't let me. Does anyone else have this problem? It is so annoying. I haven't even been able to get his shoes off.
See us.
Are you going to let me change your nappy? Alright, so my bubbas are both getting tired, so I'm going to put them to sleep now. I'll show you what I do. Is that your butt? Let's go. Come on. In your bed? Good boy. You going on ice? Alright. See you soon. Sweet dreams. Come, Bob. And now time for this little bubba. So normally I'll put this little bub down and she'll self-settle and go off to sleep, but she's still a little bit hungry, so I'm just going to feed her again before I pop her down. So I'll just set the tone in the room. So that it makes her sleep transition easier. So that I can pop her into bed once I've given her a feed in case she falls asleep. So Ollie and Billy are both asleep. Usually when they sleep, if I can match up their naps during the day, I will try and do some housework and have a nap myself if I'm tired or feeling flat or if I've got a headache. So feeling okay today, so gonna try and get some shit done. Excuse my French. Clean the kitchen, do some dinner prep. We do HelloFresh, so tonight we're having Korean beef tacos. Okay. I've just been cleaning the kitchen. That's all done now. Just having coffee and then I'll go and do some dinner prep. But just thought I'd talk to you about Ollie when he was in special care. So we had a pretty good run compared to other parents. We were in special care for 55 days that he was in hospital, which was a really long time. It was really hard I kind of felt like my baby was on lay-by in a way, and I had a whole mix of emotions, like feeling really isolated and positive about the fact that these were the cards that we were dealt and we were getting through it. Things were going to be okay, but angry that he was in special care and things hadn't gone to plan. Wasn't a full-term birth. I didn't really want to talk about it with some people. I sort of shut myself down and off from people, and I got really good support though from my work friends were amazing. They bought meals, dropped them off at our house, no issues. I had a friend, Ashley, who came and spent like the whole day in special care with me and kept me company. She'd sit there and read while I had cuddles and just be there with me, because the days were really long. Like, there were some times when I was doing 12 hours there, and like, it was just exhausting. Then coming home and running on empty, and it was intense. And one thing that I should mention as well is when I was in hospital, that week that I was staying in trying to keep Ollie in, is I got put in this room with someone who'd just had a baby at first, and I was so upset. And then they moved me out later that afternoon, and I moved in with another girl who was having had been in hospital a week before I had been. She had preeclampsia, and she was so similar to me in terms of we just clicked straight away. It was really nice to have that support. We talked about things. We were both really missing our dogs. We cried together. We laughed together. We had a really good relationship that week. And the day that I actually went to give birth with Ollie, I didn't know, but I thought she was going down to give birth. She had like an emergency and had to go down, and then she ended up being okay, and Bubs was okay, and they came back up, and I went down to birthing and I had my baby. And then she didn't have her baby for another week, and then we were together in special care. So then we ended up being opposite each other, our Bubs in the nursery. So it was really nice to have someone going through what you're going through, so we could talk to each other, keep each other company, we really understood each other and our struggles and stuff, and we still keep in touch now through text and stuff, and it's been really nice to have that support for someone to be in the same boat and to be understanding. And it was nice having that during my special care time, particularly because that was a really hard time. So Ollie didn't have any major issues when he was born. They tested my placenta. That came back with no signs of infection. Ollie didn't have any signs of infection. They loaded him with antis. He was never intubated. He was on CPAP initially in NICU, and then they ended up downgrading him from NICU to special care after not even 48 hours, because out of all the other bubs, he was the most stable, and they had a really sick bub coming in, and they were really happy with how he went. He tolerated it really well and went off to high flow oxygen and stayed on that for a while. He was in an isolate for a long time because he had trouble regulating his temperature, because he was so small. So he was born at 1.4 kilos and went down to 1.1 and had feeding intolerance, where I had a really good supply of breast milk, so had heaps of milk to give him, but he was struggling to keep it down. He'd have big vomits, and they'd give you in his with his feeds, they'd have to mix lots of electrolytes in it and have caffeine and stuff, and it sort of just didn't really agree with him. That it took him quite a while, maybe 3 weeks, for him to start to gain weight. So he was pretty small for a while, and he had Brady-Tachy syndrome, where his blood pressure, his heart rate would just drop out of the blue, go really down and then go up again. And as he got older and got stronger, that stopped. But me being a nurse and being in there, I was such a control freak. Like, I couldn't let go. I'd just sit there and just stare at the monitors and look at the figures and just overthink and all that. And I think we were really lucky because compared to some of the other mums and bubs in there, like some didn't make it and that would have been so hard, and other mums had bubs that would have to go home on oxygen. And speaking to some others that had like children that had died from SIDS, and then this was their rainbow baby, and then they'd had a prem, and speaking to women, so many of them had different complications. Like for me, I had choreo, others had cervical incompetence, that's why they went into labour, preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, different things. Everyone's story is different, everyone's dealt with different cards, and it was a really tough time for us, and but it was also a really positive time. We were really well supported. During that time I really struggled with breast issues as well, so I had a really good supply. I actually had an oversupply. I was encouraged to express 2 to 3 hourly, which gave me an oversupply, and they didn't explain, like they were like, oh, to save time you can double pump, and then my body thought I was having twins. So I just had so much milk. By the end of it, I ended up with 20 litres of frozen milk when Ollie came home from hospital. He never really established breastfeeding. He was too young to suck properly. I came home from hospital with him on a strict 3-hour feeding regime because he was so small and they needed him to gain weight, and he was on that regime for quite a while. That I'd have to attempt to breastfeed, and then if he get too tired, I'd have to give bottle to try and top him up and keep him awake, and then I'd have to express because my flow was so intense. And then being a new mum, being home, being with a prem baby that you're so worried about and around the clock and all that, and the pressures, and like poor Sam having to support us and being back at work and all that, like I just wasn't having any rest. I was a mess. I'd already experienced mastitis 5 times, ended up in hospital when Ollie was in special care on antis. I got nipple thrush from being on antis for so long. I had vasospasm. I was just beside myself. I was so over it. But I also knew and put so much pressure on myself that I had to do it because he was prem. And it was the one thing that I could do for him, because everything was taken from you when you're a new mum and you've got a child that's in special care. Like, you have to just let other people do the care, and you go home at night, and it was really hard. So I ended up giving up breastfeeding 3 days after I got home. I had a lactation consultant come to my house, and my mother-in-law was there with me, and I just cried. I was so upset, and I needed someone to tell me that it was okay to stop, because within myself I had the biggest mum guilt that I just couldn't do it. I had nothing left in me. I needed to be there for Ollie and there for myself, and I was falling to pieces, and I wouldn't have been able to sustain it, but I needed someone else to tell me that it was okay, because within myself I didn't think it was okay. My beautiful friend Claire said that I needed to do what was right for her. She just had a baby a few weeks before I did, and her saying that it was okay helped me feel like it was okay, but then I felt so jealous. And breastfeeding isn't something that's really, really important to me, I'll be honest. Like, I think fed is best, and I think that the lactation consultants in hospital put a lot of emphasis on breast is best, and at times when I wanted to give up, even when Ollie was in hospital and I had so much milk, I still kind of felt pressured, like even to the point where they were so impressed with my supply that they asked me if I wanted to be a milk donor for other mums. And I thought, oh, that would be such an honour. It's such a nice thing to be able to do for others. But I couldn't even sustain it for my own mental health, that I couldn't do it. Sam said, no, there's no way you can do it. You're having so many issues. You need to not even think about that. You need to put yourself and Ollie first. So, and thank God, because I would have really, really ended up at rock bottom. I wouldn't have been able to cope. So yeah, I ended up transitioning him from from breast milk to formula, which took some time, and then bottle feeding, and never looked back. And I think that fed is best, and it definitely helped me. And then with Billy, knowing how much I'd gone through with Ollie, I was very anxious about it. But I'd given myself a personal goal of 6 weeks, because they say it takes 6 weeks to establish your routine and supply and all that. And if I'd run into any issues, then I'd look at stopping, or if it was affecting me mentally and physically and I couldn't cope, that I would stop. But actually, Billy's almost 5 months, she's 4.5 months now, and things have been going okay, that I'm still breastfeeding. So yeah, I'm still going. I will admit though, like, it is quite restrictive. From knowing that I was going to breastfeed Billy, and I'm continuing with it. I just recently had a wedding on Friday, which I was extremely anxious about. Knew about it since before Billy was born. So since I had her, I've been trying to make her take a bottle, which I've struggled greatly with. Hasn't really taken one for Sam, didn't take one for my mum. Had it a couple of times from me and from my mother-in-law. Different teats, different bottles, different times of day, formula, expressed milk, frozen expressed milk, tried it all, and she wouldn't take it. So I was so anxious about going to a wedding. And I went, and my in-laws stayed with us in Albert Park so that I could be near the wedding, so I could go back and breastfeed. So they were amazing for doing that. We had an Airbnb, and I expressed just in case, and the little gem took a bottle for us. So I was able to celebrate and have a rosé, and had friends at the wedding be so amazing and high-fiving me and giving me a hug, because I was so worried. And then the next day we tried a bottle. She wouldn't take it. But it is what it is. We'll keep persevering. And because I've started Billy onto solids, we'll look at seeing how she goes after a few months of being on food, and then swap it and be off of food before breast and all that, to try and wean her off, just to give me a bit of a bit of free time. I'm also going to try and leave Billy like close by, like with my mum or my mother-in-law, and get them to try bottles again, and if need be I'll come back, just so that I've got a bit of freedom on my sleeve, because that's the only thing that I find quite hard. Is I'm a massive control freak, and I'm a worrywart, and I get anxious about things, and I take her with me everywhere. I took her to the hairdressers, and I'm very grateful that she's a very relaxed baby, very happy and easygoing, that I can do those things with her. She doesn't cry very often, and I've been very blessed. So I can do that, but at the same time, I do wish that I would be able to just leave my kids with Sam or my in-laws and us go and do something, or maybe able to properly catch up with my friends, or have some me time, because I think that that's really important, and it's something that, as most mums will know, you don't get when you should probably get more of it, and it's comes few and far between those. If anyone knows me, they know that I'm petrified of spiders. I had a fight with a huntsman yesterday for half an hour trying to get it out of my house, and this little thing just fell on me and I just wet my pants a bit. Hey everyone, I have my hands full with this little escapee and have been talking a lot, so just going to come back a bit later and share more stuff. So tune in later for more talk. So Billy is discovering her voice and demanding a lot more attention, so it's actually getting more full on these days, having to look after these two. To avoid a tantrum from Ollie, this is what I have to do. If I take it off, cracks the shits. Say hi. Hey everyone, so we've just had dinner. We had fish and chips because it was fish and chip weather, and we'll have our HelloFresh tomorrow night. Just thought I'd shed a light on what Ollie ate so that other mums can understand that if they've got bad eaters, they're not the only one. So fish and chips would be something that most kids would love to eat, only he spat everything out and ate the piece of bacon that was in the burger with the lot, and that's it. So there are struggles. Some things are hit and miss, some things aren't. One day he'll eat a banana, the next day he won't. Same with apple. He'll lick an orange. He'll have things in smoothies. Sometimes he'll eat pasta, sometimes he won't. At the moment, he's spitting a lot of stuff out. Dad's just given him a pickled onion, and he... Oh, what are you eating?
Apple.
No, it's an onion. And he's eating that, like... Yep. Bath time in our household, 2 birds with 1 stone. Put Ollie in first, then Billy, then take Billy out, let Ollie play while I get Billy ready. And we do this any time of the day. Doesn't necessarily have to be nighttime routine. And yes, I just lost my balance and fell over.
Good night.
Night, Baba.
Lie down.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, Hudson.
Hey everyone, so I've just put the kids to bed and just thought I'd get back on here and just say thank you for everyone for tuning in today and listening to my very long story and my journey of being a mum so far.